Welcome to Monster Chats, presented by Monster VoIP, where we share the tools, methods, and best practices that business leaders use to build new connections, strengthen relationships, and impact sales in organizations of all shapes and sizes. If you have any questions that come up during today's episode, please text them to 424-378-6966. Please welcome the founder of Monster VoIP, your host, Colin Mitchell.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking with Kristan Browne of Attriniti Consulting. Kristan and I are going to be talking about developing a business model and marketing strategy that is truly in integrity with who we are as people and professionals. I'm Colin Mitchell, the host of Monster Chats and the founder of Monster VoIP. As a lifelong entrepreneur, Kristan was keenly aware of how to listen and how to create solutions. She has worked in various industries, and for her, it always is about the people and building relationships. The best part of her profession is helping individuals and groups achieve their unique definition of success. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for your time and appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Colin. I am thrilled to be here, and it's my pleasure. Thanks so much.
So before we dig into what we're going to be talking about, tell us a little bit more about your story, about, how you got to where you are today.
Yes. Well, I would consider myself definitely a lifelong entrepreneur. I was the kid going around the neighborhood, knocking on doors saying, I know you're going on vacation, so you need me to bring in your mail, walk the dog, all that kind of stuff. And so from there, I have always either worked in small to mid-sized businesses and usually worked very closely with the owners or founders, and then started my own businesses and have had built a series of businesses, sold them, and found myself in the space where I realized I love building businesses. And I also really, because I was doing I had a landscape design business for several years, also doing I have an art background, also a geography background, very liberal arts background, essentially. And it was when I started getting involved with different associations, professional associations and boards, that I came into closer contact with other professionals in specifically the landscape industry. And I recognized that there were these just amazing, amazing people who were so creative and so good at what they did, yet the business piece of it was not always fully formed. And so that's when it really clicked for me that I wanted to be supporting creatives specifically in building their businesses and building really sustainable businesses. So, and what that means to me is that marriage of putting together what an individual, a founder, does really well, or business owner, and and making sure that their business model supports that, and then getting help and creating that team that then supports you in those areas of things that you either don't do so well or you just have no interest in doing. Because I don't think, especially if it's your own business, it's make sure that it's something that you still enjoy, or else you're just going to completely burn out. And that's no good for anyone. And so then, kind of long story longer, I realized that I also loved the idea of working with folks who said, I'm not creative. And so it's, important to distinguish between creative and artistic, right? Because as human beings, we all are essentially creative beings. And what that means is that we're problem solving, right? Or thinking outside of the box. So more recently, I have shifted into industries that are less creatively, less artistic, or what you would consider creative industries, and working with other types of organizations and folks. I recently was really moved to reach out to a local police department. And so I've started a contract with them doing some team training and leadership support. And I also, my other big thing for this year and going forward is I recognize that I'm not necessarily always the best fit for a organization or a company, but what I am really, really good at is diagnosing, so taking that assessment, getting real clarity around where the pain points are and where the opportunities are too, and then creating really, really excellent teams of people to come in and do the right type of consulting or coaching. So probably in the near future, I will be kind of segueing more out of the direct coaching world and into more of the support and team development for different companies. And what that allows me to do too is then work. I already work remotely with a lot of my clients, but it will allow me to work with also much bigger companies and even, multinational or bigger, and also bigger government agencies and different. I feel like it really opens up this several different avenues for me. And as you mentioned in my bio, when I started Attriniti, it really was about it. I coach a lot of my clients on being so niche specific because it makes their marketing simpler. It makes it, all these good things. They get to work with the clients that they're really designed to work with. And I recognize that for myself, I was really resisting picking that niche. And because what it is for me, it's always about the people and really building relationships. And I think that has been just that through line, regardless of whether I've had my own business or, worked for someone else. It's just building these really long-term relationships where there's just a deep level of trust and understanding, and also a real commitment to success. And again, you had mentioned, that unique definition of success. And a lot of times with new clients, that's where I start the conversation, because I think success is one of those words that we, it's so kind of generic and we can make a lot of assumptions about what that means. But I think it's so great to really sit down with yourself and think about, what does success mean to me, beyond, and I find that a lot of times it's way beyond, the money piece of it, although that certainly is a component.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for some people, it's maybe making enough so they can spend more time with their family.
Right.
There's a deeper meaning of success, right? But I love that. I mean, so you basically work with entrepreneurs and kind of take inventory and stock of the things that maybe they're not so great at, right? So you mentioned like artistic people, right? Typically, I would say there's kind of a common thread of artistic people running business, maybe not their strong suit.
Right.
And then it takes away from, them being able to spend more time doing what they love doing.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Which
exactly.
is and I think that's the same for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially just getting started, right? There's something about their business that they love doing, and there's usually a lot of things that they don't like doing.
Right.
So just like staying true to that and being, open to like, hey, I don't need to do everything.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that I had created the 4 S's of success. And it's it's both a philosophy and also I give, workshops and webinars and whatnot around it. And really what that is what I consider kind of those 4 foundational pieces to creating a sustainable business, which are your systems, your structure, your space, and also strategy. So, and, it is and I think that what I love about the 4S's is that it's both there's an external component to it and also an internal component to it, meaning that, for instance, like space, let's just, and all, because so many of us are now finding ourselves working from home, and, how do we create that workspace that actually supports us doing what we need to do? So, having not, limiting distractions, being able to, being comfortable. I mean, I'm reading all these things that are talking about.
Not too comfortable though, right?
Yeah, not too comfortable, right?
Your PJs and your laptop on your pillow is not going to be a productive space.
Exactly. Yeah. Or not going into the kitchen every 5 minutes, right? So there's that space, but then when I'm, also talking to my entrepreneurs and my clients, it's what is that space that you want to hold in the world? What is, and for some people, it's really important, as you mentioned, to have that time with family and really be present for their children or their significant other or whomever. And sometimes that space that they may want to hold is more of a public, being in the public eye, whether that's to be of service or, or some people, they want to be famous too. I mean, and they want to hold that space. So like I said, each of the 4S's has those kind of those internal and external components to it. And the other thing that I talk a lot about, and you were saying how you have started several different businesses, and yeah, as entrepreneurs, so often, and that's why I adore working with entrepreneurs, because they really are excited about the thing that they want to do, right? And it is, and they don't have to do everything. And I really, it's, and that's that structure piece, right? What's the structure of your business, in that you make sure that there's enough time for you to be doing the stuff that you're really, really good at, that essentially no one else can, replicate at that moment. And,
right.
And that's so important. And just, I love kind of talking about founder syndrome, because, that is, I have so many clients who come to me and say that, hey, I want to scale my business. I want to grow. And, oftentimes founders are going to be the biggest roadblock to the growth of the business, because, I joke that a big part of working with the people that want to do that is, prying their little fingers off of every detail of the business and really learning how to delegate and manage. I mean, it's very different to found a business and then to manage one, and just those, and, you needing, and as you grow a business, there's different, it'll mature, and there will be different needs. And so how do you stay relevant in your own business as a founder as it grows?
Right. So it's like developing that business model and strategy that align with who you are. Like figuring out, what is this, a lifestyle business? Do I want to be famous? Do I want to serve? Like, what is that? Right. And then it's so easy to get lost or forget what that is with that founder syndrome. Like, I got to do everything. My hands need to touch everything. I can only do this right.
Right.
And it's not going to get done properly if I don't do it. So being able to get away from that, to kind of almost get out of the way so that the business can scale, right?
Absolutely. And it is getting out of their own way, and that is the most important thing. And I really, and knowing, when I just was having a conversation with a new client, and it was so interesting because, just even, I'm kind of a word geek, so I love to look up definitions and the kind of the root of the word. And I think it's also very powerful, the words that we choose to speak about our business or about our role in the business. And, particularly when people are thinking about hiring a coach or a consultant, they're like, oh God, I can't afford it, and it's too expensive and all this kind of stuff. And, and really, my ideal clients are the folks who, number one, realize that it's an investment and as opposed to an expense, right? And then also the people who recognize like you almost can't afford not to hire, the right people at certain times in your business journey, because there's you're not expected to know everything. And I know that it's so great to kind of learn through experience, but not everything has to be learned. You don't have to scrape your knee every single day. So, to bring in help and also bring in, what I get to do is I get to be really, I get to kind of look at it at the really the high level. And then also I can get into the weeds of what are the systems, or what are, what's the strategy that we're going to employ to get your message out. But I think that it's so, just having that fresh set of eyes on your business can be so helpful, because you can get pretty deep in it and not see all the different factors at play. And that also comes into that is, I talk, if you ever go to my website, I have just a kind of a short video, and it talks about, so I can help people really recognize their, what they may not be seeing, and also tease out those unique characteristics where they just excel, and are kind of doing their unique thing. And so making sure that we're really focused on that.
So helping the entrepreneurs identify their blind spots.
Definitely the blind spots. And I also mentioned bright spots. And I think it was Adam Grant, who I may have heard him use that terminology in an interview. And I love it, because it is that, it's that place where we don't even realize, we kind of, it's so, obviously it's hard for me to describe in some ways, but those bright spots are those things that you do so well, and they come so naturally to you that you can kind of discount them or not necessarily give yourself enough credit for it. It's almost like, the water that we swim in, when you're a fish, right? It's so much a part of you, but it is also, those true bright spots are those things that you really excel at and that are unique to you and that other people don't do as well. So let's make sure, and, because that's kind of that sweet spot, both in terms of just maintaining engagement and excitement about your business, but also that sweet spot where you are going to be the most authentic and the most attractive to the clients or, customers that you are best suited to serve.
So identifying those bright spots, right? So the things that you excel at, the things that, are kind of unique to you, but also like the things that you really enjoy doing, like that you get up and you're excited to do every day. Staying true to those and finding a way to identify the things that you're not as great at, or that you don't, wake up excited to do, and just staying true to that. Yes.
I think I think that's the key when you think about having longevity in your business. Because we know just from, if we, I've read different articles that will say that, if you think of people who go to work every day, I think it's like, it's an overwhelming majority who are either looking for other work at the same time that they're doing what they're doing, or, that are, or just not that engaged in what they've been hired to do. So it's particularly if you've started your own company, don't you owe it to yourself to make sure that you're doing the thing that you most enjoy,
Right.
and it doesn't mean that there aren't those, it doesn't mean that there isn't kind of those days where you need to do you have to do the work. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, but it is, again, I think that when you're really focused on creating a business structure that is based on what you do best, that's the easiest road to success, or let's say the simplest road.
Yeah.
Simple, not always easy.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break here just to tell you what we do at Monster VoIP. We help businesses save 30 to 50% off their telecom bill while providing them more value and more features than what they might have today. If you'd like to learn more, you can text us at 424-378-6966. So we're talking about entrepreneurs identifying those blind spots, right? But then also looking for those bright spots. And, also, once they find those blind spots of those things that they're not great at, or those things that they don't enjoy doing, it's not that difficult to get somebody else to do them, right?
Right.
The business landscape has changed a lot. The gig industry is huge. Outsourcing things, it's not, for entrepreneurs that are maybe, have on a tight budget or being cautious of their spending or still just getting started, there's options to offload that doesn't always mean, bringing in a full-time person, right?
Oh, I think that there's even options where you can certainly get a lot of help for free too, right? So I think that there's a couple of ways to look at it. As you start getting clarity around what are those pieces that you really excel at? What are those pieces that are revenue producing that you excel at, right? And so I talk about systems, right? And so one way to begin to kind of offload some of that stuff that you might get hung up on is, I joke that, if you do something twice in your business, it deserves a system. So just, put some systems in place, and that could be something as simple as having a script for your, if you're doing phone calls or you're doing some sort of networking, just, don't try to be off the cuff every single time. Be really, really clear. Have a script. Have a, if you find yourself writing emails and, you can create templates for this stuff, right? Bring in, again, like also a lot of times people will get tripped up on, invoicing or the billing or the, kind of the money side of things. Now, that's, again, there's a lot of different apps that are very, very simple to use. You do not have to be a finance wizard. And then that also is a great, for a lot of my emerging entrepreneurs, that's a great place to start bringing in some part-time help, right? And then the other thing I would say is that there is a tremendous amount of resources available to people depending on your industry if you join some of these professional associations. Like a lot of times they will already have maybe a sample contract that you get access to, and then gosh, people love to talk about their business. And so, also being willing just to engage in some conversation, and whether it's with, colleagues or, so it could be people in your industry or just people, that that are outside of the industry. And I know that senior centers, for instance, there are places where you've got people that have transitioned out of the workplace, but still have this tremendous, wealth of knowledge that transcends kind of changes in technology or anything like that. That can be a great resource too.
Yeah, those are some great tips. So, finding those things that you're not great at, or take a lot of time, or not revenue generating, right? Creating a system, whether that's leveraging, technology and software, using resources, tapping into resources to, get some systems in place, to get some time back to focus more on the things that you are more passionate about or more skilled at.
Right.
Is what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing too about the other reason why I so believe in creating systems within your business is because when you do get to that point at which you are able to hire people, whether it's part-time or full-time, it's so much, and I alluded to this earlier in the conversation, that oftentimes, people who start businesses are not necessarily the best managers. So if you have systems in place, if you have kind of, step-by-step, really breaking down the steps of your different processes in some sort of document, how much easier it makes to train your people, right? And to really onboard them all that more quickly. So you're not, you're not kind of either, because I a lot of times, newer business owners or entrepreneurs, when they do, they will recognize that it would be helpful to have other people in their organization. But then I have found that people get really frustrated because, again, they don't have clarity around what they need to be asking those other people to do, and they don't have the systems in place to train them. So it then can kind of create this vicious cycle where it affirms that founder syndrome that I was talking about earlier, where you feel like, oh gosh, no one else really can do what I do. And it's like, oh no, you got to train, you've got to have some sort of training in place. And the other thing I always tell people is start where you are. Like, you don't have to do everything, but if you find yourself, it's as simple. I mean, a super simple example is like, if you work with multiple clients or you work with, multiple vendors or whatever, like, how are you keeping track of their information? There you go. That's a system. Is it just contacts in your, on your computer and your phone? Are you organizing them by, categories? Just simple stuff like that. And, or do you have a spreadsheet or whatever that is, and then just write down, what those things, what it is that you actually do to get that person into your contact list. And, so just start where you are, and it doesn't have to be, and I think that the best systems are always going to be evolving, right? That they're not meant to be static.
Yeah. No, I love this because I love what you said. If you do it more than twice, then create a system, because I am such a stickler for process and efficiency. And there's so many tools out there and so much technology that exists to do so many things that you used to have to do manually that you don't, without even having to have another person. So, as soon as you start to feel like this is taking too much time, I'm always doing this, there's an opportunity to automate that, to make it more efficient, to create a system. And then, at some point, bring somebody in, and there's already a system in place to be followed.
Right. And I think the other thing too is, the idea that because I get so many clients who come to me and say, I really want some help with my time management.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of laugh because it's like, okay, there really isn't time management. There is like self-management, right? So it is about, and they feel like they're always kind of playing catch up,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of always behind the eight ball or whatever. And it's like, okay, if you would just 10 minutes a day, work on putting together a system, guarantee you will slowly but surely over time, you will just free up so much more of your time to be doing the stuff that, and I was saying about income producing activities,
Right.
that's the other thing that I see so many, and actually I was going to say newer business owners, but so many business owners, really kind of miss the boat, I think, at really being clear about what those income producing activities are versus kind of some of the busy work. And I also do think, one thing is, when you think about marketing, right? And so I think that's one of a great example is that we have this, we have social media now, which everyone, feels like, oh gosh, I've got to be on these different platforms and posting and this and that. And they can get really caught up in that process, which I think is great. And I definitely, depending on your business model, absolutely, social media is going to be part of your marketing plan. However, just be really, really clear about how much time it takes. And also, what is the return on investment with that versus maybe a more active marketing, plan, which would include, getting on the phone with people, calling, getting, reaching out, doing, attending an event, so the return on investment on that a lot of times can be so much more lucrative, or even reaching back, for people that are in kind of professional services, making sure that you're looping back with past clients and saying, hey, would you refer me? Would you, give me, some feedback about what you liked, why it was so great to work together, or, all those kinds of things. And I think it will be interesting, because we are going through such a unique time in terms of what's happening with the pandemic, where people jokingly were, we are picking up the phone and we are having more kind of video conferencing, and really, we are feeling this need to connect with people. And so I will be curious if some business owners realize and continue to use kind of these more basic soft skills to build their businesses.
Yeah. And I think with social media, like it's extremely powerful if used properly. But also with the proper, you got to be very intentional about it, right? Because are you sitting on social media, like lurking and looking at the thread, or are you engaging? Are you getting in front of your ideal customer or prospect? Are you bringing value? Right. So people think like, I got to get involved in social media. Well, just like looking at your thread and like, lurking is not revenue generating activity on social media.
Right.
So, and for me, social media is a huge part of our business and is a huge, generator of business for us, but I have to schedule it. Like I actually have to like say, okay, I'm going to spend 15 or 20 minutes on LinkedIn in the morning or in the afternoon. And then I do comments and responses in the evening, like, because you can get so caught and you're like, oh my gosh, it's an hour. I'm late for a meeting. And I've done it before.
Right.
You know, so when you do go down that path, being very intentional about it. Right.
Absolutely.
But now to circle back to that last point that you were saying, right? So people are doing all these things that they weren't doing before, like, you know, deeper connections and more relationship building, video conference. And we find that, you know, connection rates are a lot higher. People are picking up the phone a lot higher of a rate than they were previously because they're just less distracted, less busy. They really want to connect with people.
Right.
And, you know, using that properly can be huge right now.
Yes.
But then also social media is super active. Everybody's creating content now. You know, everybody's doing video. Everybody's doing conferences. So entrepreneurs are going to be, you know, kind of stumbling across a lot of new skills. And I think it will be interesting to see, like, do they continue those? And I think the answer is yes. I think that most people are going to be like, wow, why wasn't I doing this before? This is amazing. It's unfortunate that, you know, the pandemic had to happen in order for me to start doing business this way.
Well, and I think it is, I do hope that it continues because I do think that there's some real positives to it, just in terms of both kind of the engagement that you'll feel and you know, as I've talked about, a big theme of the type of, you know, consulting and coaching I do for my clients is, you know, have fun with this, enjoy it, you know, I think the world is a better place when we are, you know, really feeling good about what we do. So in our work, you know, our professional lives are, you know, they're a big part of what we do every day. And also there has been this tremendous, even more so now, right, blending of personal and professional lives. So, again, all the more reason just to make sure that it's, you know, that you are doing that which you love and are really good at. But I think it's, I think the other thing about just having this time recently is, you know, there is just less noise, right? So I have found for myself and also for a lot of my clients that there's this tremendous amount of clarity that comes with this downtime. And I mean, I guess, or quieter time. I know that, you know, many people are just as busy. I'm not saying that they're not working, but just fewer distractions. And so a lot more clarity around, you know, what do I do? What's my, you know, what, you know, there's the whole movement around what's your why, you know, why is it important to you to be doing the thing that you do? And I would really recommend that people, if you haven't kind of done that before, take some time. And I had done a workbook / journal. I think I did it a couple of years ago, and I'm actually doing a new edition coming up that was called Spaghetti on the Wall. And it was really it was inspired by I call it kind of the lost art of discernment, that, you know, living in a world where there is such a overabundance of information available, information that is just kind of unwittingly pushed on us. I think it's the average person in the United States is going to see, like, it's such a crazy number, like 9,000 ads. I don't know if it's a day or a week or something, but you think about, like, when you pump gas, there's that little screen that's like putting stuff out. You know, it's like the buses now have little screens on them with stuff. You know, I mean, it's just, you're inundated with so much stuff right now. And in this time. So how do you figure out the stuff that really is meaningful to you and that does, that does really light you up, that you're really, that you want to engage with? And then how do you, and then also the stuff that you don't like. I mean, I think it can be just as powerful to really kind of dig into those types of experiences or situations that you don't enjoy, and kind of ask yourself, like, what did that trigger, or why was I uncomfortable there, or what would I want to do differently? And so, so the spaghetti on the wall essentially was just really kind of suggesting that a habit of discernment can be just an incredible tool to build your business.
Right. Yeah. So it's just a really good time to take inventory of like what's working and what's not. Right.
Yeah.
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 We are just about out of time. Thank you so much, Kristan, for your time today, and welcome to the Monster Chats family. Before we let you go, please tell us how people can find you online, how they can get more information, and if they wanted to ask you any questions, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, for sure. So my website is attriniti.com, and that is Attriniti. And I can also feel free to shoot me an email, Kristan@attriniti.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and I do a little bit of social media. But I don't do a ton. So really email me, get on LinkedIn. I'd love to answer your questions, and look forward to, and I also, I do offer workshops and speaking. And if introducing a habit of discernment into your life sounds good, then go to my website, because I will be having the new edition of Spaghetti on the Wall available soon, and it's available for pre-order.
Fantastic. Kristan, thanks so much for your time. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe and also share. And we are also open to your feedback. The show is all about you, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Monster Chats, presented by Monster VoIP, where we share the tools, methods, and best practices that business leaders use to build new connections, strengthen relationships, and impact sales in organizations of all shapes and sizes. If you have any questions from today's show and want to reach us directly, please text your question to 424-378-6966.